Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another great edition of Sitback with Shaq and Anu. It is just Shaq today, unfortunately. Anu is feeling a bit under the weather. He had a very heavy weekend. After all, this usually happens to Anu. When it comes, Monday comes around, he has some sort of excuse, but he's actually not feeling too well today. So, unfortunately, you are stuck with me. Welcome to the show. It's another great week, another Monday, inching towards the end of the month of August, and of course another great week of fantastic guests that we have right here on, of course, Sit Back with Shaq and Anu, going live on Channel 1 Dialogue TV, and of course going live on our YouTube platforms, PodHub platforms on YouTube. And what we do on the show, of course, is we discuss current trending topics. We bring individuals on the show to discuss those topics and what's happening in Sri Lanka right now, what's happening around the world right now. We basically get into all those details and of course have a very candid and a sit-back chat with our wonderful guests. And today and right now, of course, what is going on, Sri Lanka being a cricket-loving country, we had a pretty pathetic performance as far as the first match against Afghanistan was concerned. Just a couple of days ago, we've got a guest on the show who does not need any introduction to anybody, and we're definitely going to be speaking to him in just a few minutes, dissecting what happened in that opening game with Sri Lanka and Afghanistan. Thank you so much to our wonderful sponsor. Daraz is on the show with us. Thanks so much for being a part of the show, and as always we've got some super stuff happening on the show courtesy of Daraz, and we've got something called the Deal of the Day, which happens every day on the show, and a chance for you to, of course, win something exclusive courtesy of Daraz on the Deal of the Day. So before we actually get into the conversation per se, let's start off with to find out what the Deal of the Day today is. Let's have it right now. Alright, today's Deal of the Day is coming up on your screen, and what you need to do is very simple. All you need to do is jump on the Daraz app, locate the deal, and take a screenshot of the deal and send it to us by WhatsApp to this number 075 011 7777 075 011 7777. That is the Deal of the Day. It's a Celsius classic pillow, 18-inch by 27-inch double wasi pack. That's what you can get. All you need to do, locate it on the Daraz app and take a screenshot, send it right now. Remember, the first person who sends it in is going to walk off with what you see on your screen right now. WhatsApp the screenshot to this number 075 011 7777. That is your Daraz Deal of the Day. At the end of the show, we will reveal who the lucky winner is going to be. Right, without any further ado, I think it's time for us to introduce our guest on the show for tonight. He's coming to us live all the way from the comfort of his home. Roshan Abeysinghe on the show with us. Hi Roshan, how are you?
Very good, Shakil. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Roshan. I'm doing good. It's too bad that we can't have you in the studio, Roshan.
Well, circumstances are beyond us, so let's make the most of what we have.
How much of the 20 liters have you used up?
I think I would have used up about, well, I got to run the week, so I think I would have used up about 7 liters.
Okay, so now...
I'm going to be on minus.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, the lines are back, which is not good news. But hopefully things will try and sort of peter out later on during this next couple of days or so. Okay, Roshan, I'm going to be talking about the match against Afghanistan. Before we actually get into the match and of course dissect what really happened, we are also going to get into a poll. We actually do a poll on the show, on every show, and the poll is always based on the conversation that we talk about or the guest that we have on the show. So before we get into the nitty-gritties of the conversation today, let's start off with our daily poll.
Welcome to the universe of the Raz, where you explore and discover whatever you want, whatever you need. All you can imagine is on your feet. When miles are abridged, happiness is unlocked. Discover your Daraj.
It's your daily poll. Remember, you can send in your answers to the WhatsApp number that is going to be up on your screen any moment from now. Let's find out what the poll is for the show today. Will Sri Lanka make it to the next round of the Asia Cup? Yes or no? Straight up. And send in your answers, yes or no, 077 669 1590. At the end of the show, we will reveal as to where it stands. Everybody watching us now live on Channel 1.TV, and of course everyone watching us on Podhub platforms on YouTube. You can be a part of this like you always are. Lots of polls, lots of answers coming in for all our polls. Will Sri Lanka make it to the next round of the Asia Cup? Yes or no? WhatsApp your answer to that number, 077 669 1590. I will get into that question with Roshan later on, but right now, without hiding from the facts, Roshan, let's find out what really happened in the match between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan. Woeful performance, so to say.
Well, absolutely, Shakil. It was a woeful performance, and I would definitely lay the blame totally at the feet of the batsman, because at the end of the day, we got to accept that that surface had some greenness, that surface had seam movement, lateral movement, which was not easy to bat. But then that's where the batting plays a role, where if you set yourself a target of say 180 runs in 20 overs, then immediately when you go in there and when you see what's happening and when you see the pitch behaving in that manner, you got to reassess immediately, and then you got to reset your target. So instead of 180, Sri Lanka should have been aiming at 140. So I really didn't see that. Instead, what I thought was, I felt that the Sri Lankan batsmen were a little bit aimless, to be honest, after losing those 2 wickets early. And then with that Danushka Gunatilaka and Bhanuka Rajapaksa partnership was trying to get Sri Lanka out of trouble. But then if you really look at Danushka Gunatilaka, he seemed to get out a lot playing shots like the reverse. When playing the proper shots or playing the correct cricketing shots, he is a much better batsman. So I believe that Sri Lanka made a lot of mistakes. I felt watching from a distance that there was no clear plan in the batting lineup, in the batting effort, and that is the price Sri Lanka paid in the opening game. But having said that, I do give credit to Afghanistan for an excellent win, and it wasn't the easiest surface to bat on.
Now, Roshan, this was a team that did so well against Australia at home a couple of weeks ago. Is it just a really bad day at the office, or have we taken a few steps back with the performance against Afghanistan?
No, there were few things that you got to understand. Back at home, we were playing on pitches that were slow, which were brown, which was not seaming as much. We didn't have too much of bounce. See, you go and throw in a subcontinent side on surfaces like that, they are going to struggle. If you look at Pakistan and India in the second game, none of the batsmen were comfortable against those bowling. Right? Nobody really managed to dominate. And Hardik Pandya stood tall, and that had a reason. The reason for that was that Pakistan was penalized by the fact that their over rate was slow, and two of their main bowlers are struggling with cramps. So they all, fell into the Indian lap. But having said that, on pitches like this, the subcontinent batsmen are bound to struggle. So there is a difference between the surface we played and the surfaces we are playing here. I certainly don't think we have taken a step backwards. I certainly feel that we were up against a very foreign condition that if we are to be a good team, we should look to try and dominate, survive, and prosper.
Now, this is not the type of pitch that you usually expect in the UAE, in Dubai, or even in Sharjah. As a matter of fact, this was an absolute green top that was given to us. It did not necessarily have a shade of grass. It was actually overgrown grass, so to say. It was like green from wherever you can actually see it. Now, what do you think the reason behind this is, Roshan?
The only reason I can see is that as this is a tournament that is going to be played over a few days, say a week or two, so they need to make sure that the surfaces remain good even towards the end. So when you have to ensure that the surfaces are kept true, you can't afford to start the deterioration from the start. So you need to try and preserve the surface as much as you can. So to do that, you need to have grass that binds it together. You'll have to water it a little bit, but the pitchers will tend to get tired as the game progresses. Let's look at the other side of the coin. If you start off with absolutely good batting pitches at the start with very little grass on it, with the heat that is prevailing in the Middle East at the moment, as the tournament reaches its final stages, you see the business end, the pitchers will be really tired, and what will happen is that it will start to slow down, it can start to spin, and it won't be attractive cricket. So my thinking is to make sure that the pitchers are preserved. They're trying to keep grass at the start, and that way they're just trying to make sure that the pitchers remain true.
Roshan, if we had won the toss, do we have the bowlers in our ranks to actually threaten them on a green top like Afghanistan did?
Well, if we had won the toss, I felt if Dilshan Madhushanka bowled to his potential, even bowling second, he could have created a few ripples. Because I've seen Dilshan Madhushanka bowl. He's someone who can bowl fast. He's someone who seams the ball. He swings the ball. Now, when you look at Matisha Patirana, he's not someone who depends on the surface because he's a slinger. It is the way he releases the ball, the yorkers, the short deliveries. He's actually not dependent on the surface. But when it comes to Dilshan Madhushanka, he could have definitely made the difference. But I can see why Matisha Patirana and Dilshan Madhushanka both were played in this team. It's for variety. Matisha Patirana for that X factor, which is action, which is very difficult to pick up. And Dilshan Madhushanka for the potential he had, the way he swings the ball, and particularly the way he bowls to the right-handers. So I'm sure if he had won the toss, they would have bowled better. If you saw these two young fast bowlers bowling, Shakil, they were under a lot of pressure. And what Afghanistan did very well was they came out all guns blazing, so that they just pushed our bowlers back completely and made a very strong statement. And for their luck, every shot they played came off. So that's what really happened, and that's why our bowling looked a little bit second rate on that day.
But was it right to actually play two debutants at an opening match like this? I mean, are you trying to say that we actually do not have an experienced seamer who can possibly team up with one of the debutants? I mean, two debutants opening the attack for Sri Lanka. I don't think I can recall the last time this has actually happened.
Yeah, we don't have, because even Asitha Fernando is very, very green in experience. He's hardly played any white ball cricket. Don't forget, Dushmantha Chamira is injured, Binura Fernando is injured, Kasun Rajitha is injured. So three of our main fast bowlers are injured. Lahiru Kumara is injured. He has not figured in any of our cricket for a very long time. So what Sri Lanka has done is they've gone with a very young side. They've got Nuwan Tushara, got Matisha Patirana and Dilshan Madhushanka, and Asitha Fernando. He's the other fast bowler. My gut feel is that they may play Asitha Fernando for Matisha Patirana in the next game against Bangladesh. I'll tell you why. Why I think that way. So this, I felt they went with that surprise factor, where none of these bowlers have been seen before. So they just want to catch Afghanistan by surprise. But sadly, we didn't have the runs on the board to make full use of it.
I think we were actually caught by surprise with the Afghanistan bowling. Certainly caught off guard. Let's talk about the batting order. Now, when you play around with the batting order, sometimes when it comes off, everybody basically says it's a master stroke. Now, when it doesn't happen, like it didn't happen on Saturday, everyone starts to question as to why. Now, it is actually that time where we question why. Why did why didn't Danushka actually open with Pathum? Because that is exactly what he's been doing for the last several matches he played, and they were doing pretty well at the top. So what do you think is the reason behind that?
No, it's something that has baffled a few people. The only it's a statistical thing that I could possibly think of, and that is if you take Kusal Mendis's record as an opener is much better than in the middle order. So they were kind of tempted to use Kusal Mendis in a role that is performed well. Now, as far as Pathum Nissanka is concerned, I don't think Sri Lanka wants to tinker too much with him. Either you play him as an opener or don't play him. You don't want to shift him around, right? And Avishka Fernando is still not available in the side. So and also the fact that Charit Asalanka is an established number 3. See, but the only risk I saw in that batting order was we had Asalanka, we had Danushka Gunatilaka, and we had Rajapaksa, 3 left-handers batting at 3, 4, and 5, which I felt was not ideal. So that is the reason why it was imperative that one of the right-handers who opened had to bat deep to make sure that that partnership went, and the man to do that was Pathum, because his role is to score not at 150 runs per 100 balls. I don't think. I feel his role is to make sure that you score at a runner ball or a little bit more than a runner ball, but do not play the dots. That's his role. You see, his role is not to blast the bowling. So sadly, that was not allowed, because I don't think that dismissal was right. That dismissal was wrong, because I didn't see a spike when the third umpire gave him out. So, I don't want to cast too many aspersions. And I don't know, in hindsight, we can always, start giving our conclusions, but you never know what could have happened. He could have got out next ball. But so I feel the thinking is that they wanted Danushka the batsman and Danushka the fielder. Danushka is an outstanding fielder, batsman who's good at white ball, but at the same time they also wanted to have a partnership which they felt with Kusal being successful at the top and Pathum as more or less the permanent opener. That partnership also to be kind of continued with. That's the only thing I feel was the reason for this opening partnership to be played.
We'll get back to that dismissal, Pathum Nissanka, which of course very, very controversial all over the cricketing world. Everyone's talking about it. Ashen has a question for us. With all the analysis working for all international teams, how is that Kusal Mendis and Charit Asalanka look so shocked and unprepared for the Afghan opening bowlers moving the ball both ways?
Well, you cannot be obviously prepared for what is for a pitch. You don't know what a pitch will really offer. But what you can be prepared is you can be prepared for what you can control, and that is you analyze bowlers, you have seen them, and you'll try and understand how the bowlers bowl. And generally, what a team would do, analysis would be, they would look at subtle areas. They would look at, for example, the delivery points, what kind of changes would they do and how would they do it, right? If they were to go round wide of the crease, what kind of delivery would they bowl, certain points of releases and run-ups and the pitch maps. These are the areas, the types of deliveries, at what point would they start changing up and what would be the giveaway. These are the things that teams would generally prepare. And as you know, Shaq, there is a thing called matchups, where you really start identifying what is Kusal's record against a left-arm bowler and what is his record against a right-arm bowler, opening the batting as against batting in the middle order. So these are areas, these are the things that teams generally start to analyze on. It is the same when Afghanistan tries to analyze our team. But you have to bat on a pitch to understand what the pitch would offer. See, I have seen green pitches with grass that really does hardly anything. Right, so it depends on the surface. At the same time, there are certain pitches that misbehave. So, Charit Asalanka was done. He just couldn't lift his bat. He was done for. It was so nippy off the surface. He's not quick. He's nippy. He just could not move. It hit him from nowhere. So these type of things can happen. So I don't know whether you can really prepare for pitches like this. because you don't get services like this at practice. Or yes, you get certain services that moves and bounces, but I don't know whether the movement can be this exaggerated when it comes to practice.
Yeah, I think Charith Asalanka really got an absolute corker. I mean, I don't think there's nothing he did wrong, but that ball was just way too beautiful not to get out.
I agree. I agree. But Kusal's thing was, Kusal completely was beaten on the length.
Yeah.
What he tried to do, what I remember right, was he tried to play a pull shot of a delivery that was pitched a little bit further up. So you really can't blame the ball for that. It is purely wrong shot selection. But when it comes to Charith Asalanka, that was a shocker. You know, that would have dismissed the best batsman in the world. So those type of shocking situations where you lose 2 wickets in the first over and then you have your other opener being given out, right or wrong, and you're suddenly 3 wickets down for nothing. So it's a very difficult hold for any team to come out from.
Roshan, you've been in the commentary box a fair amount of times. You've seen your fair share of controversies. Now, I'm sure you've never seen something like that happen before. There is a school of thought that is basically backing the third umpire for Pathum Nissanka's dismissal because the on-field umpire gave him out, and supposedly the third umpire didn't see any conclusive evidence to overturn that, so hence he had to go with it because none of us saw any spike there except for the third umpire.
Well, initially the third umpire was brought in to ensure that the howlers are kind of removed and got rid of because they were real howlers. But then later on the DRS system has evolved. So in the case of the third umpire, he is expected to use the available evidence before him to the best of his knowledge, best of his ability, as you said, if it is conclusive, to make the right decision. Now, I really don't think that the third umpire himself, if you talk to him today, would want to accept the fact that he made the right decision. I mean, he must be regretting himself. That was definitely a mistake on the part of the third umpire. I mean, for example, you take an LBW, right? How many LBWs get overturned by the third umpire simply because of the on-field umpire making a mistake, right? So, I mean, if you look at the game between India and Pakistan, Rizwan was given out in the first over. It was overturned. So that's where the third umpire should be. So he had no conclusive evidence because I have seen these spikes, I have seen these Hawkeyes and ultra edges and all that. I've seen too much of it. So, you know, you need a clear spike. Even if it is a feather, the spike is very, very, something that is clearly seen. So this spike was non-existent. So it is a clear mistake by the third umpire, but don't get me wrong, that was not the turning point of the match.
Yeah.
That was a contributory factor, but that could have, I mean, as I said before, Pathum Nissanka could have easily got out the next ball. But that is in no way an excuse. I'm only trying to point something that all worked against Sri Lanka at that stage.
Yeah, well, it's all good and done when you have technology and at your fingertips to obviously use it. But then when you're incompetent to actually use the technology that's given to you, that is where the problem actually comes up.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. You need to know. It's like having the best car in the world and not knowing to drive it.
Exactly. That's exactly what we experienced. Lakmina sends a message. How is that a country like Afghanistan with half the resources and experience we have are performing consistently better than us in the shorter formats?
Well, that's a very good question. But if you really look at where we are as a T20 team and where Afghanistan is at the moment, you would see, Shakil, that 6 or 7 of the Afghanistan cricketers are more sought after in almost every league around the world.
Right.
Now, Sri Lanka has gone through a really barren period, as you know, from 2017 onwards. Sri Lanka hardly won any games. Sri Lanka's T20 record was woeful. It is still very bad. The 50-over tournament 50-over team is gradually turning the corner. So Sri Lanka is gradually getting there. Right now, don't forget Afghanistan.
Roshan, let me just interrupt you there. I mean, we've been saying that we're gradually getting there for the last 5 years, Roshan. When are we going to get there?
No. Let me back you. Let me back my statement. Right now, if you look at, take the IPL for example, right? 2 or 3 years ago, there weren't any Sri Lankans in the IPL. Only guy was Thisara Perera, right? But today you see there are 4 or 5. You look at the BBL, right? I
Yeah.
don't think the number of Sri Lankans will get picked up, but there are lots of nominees that are being forwarded. So that's an indication that the world is taking note of Sri Lankan T20 players, which is an indication that Sri Lanka is somewhere there in T20 cricket. I'm not saying they're right up there. They have a long way to go. But
Right.
Shakil, I wish to state and place on record that one of the main reasons that Sri Lanka is struggling in T20 cricket, and I have no problem in saying this, is because Sri Lanka was so late in starting their own league. Right? Afghanistan had a league of their own long before we came up with the LPL. We had an SLPL, I think, way back in 2011, or I can't remember, it was so long ago. And then it was a barren period. And when our cricketers never played under lights and suddenly been told to go and play international cricket under lights, when our cricketers are told to play with a white ball in the night, when we have never had experience playing, right, with top class cricketers, what do you expect? Right, you needed to have that, right? And we did not have that. Sri Lankan Cricket League, or now the LPL, that was yearning for, that was crying out for, so today, just imagine, we started our T20 league in 2020. See how many cricketers after that has gone into the IPL. See how many cricketers are in the BBL. See how many names have been picked up by the Caribbean League or even the 100 ball. So this is the progress I'm talking about, right? It still has a long way to go, but you need to back your team with the resources. For some reason, the administrators who are in power, for maybe for very good reason, you need to find out from them. I'm just telling you what I think. Didn't have a league. So this, I think, is a very limiting factor as far as Sri Lanka's T20 cricket is concerned.
Now, obviously, we had the LPL, which is also geared to sort of take place just before the Asia Cup. Unfortunately, that got postponed. Would that have actually helped in Sri Lanka's preparations for the Asia Cup?
Absolutely, because it would have been the closest to an international contest. Because there were, I mean, if all the players who were picked up in the draft, played in the LPL, it would have been really stiff competition. Hats off to the Sri Lanka Cricket Board for organizing a 4-team Super League. But then that is a tournament comprising of domestic cricketers, right? Where there were quality cricketers and there were not so good cricketers in that tournament. So the competition wasn't as intense as an LPL. So if we had an LPL, I think it would have been fantastic experience for our players, and it would have been a very good test, and it would have been something that would have really showcased where our players were in terms of form and the way they cope. So that not having the LPL just before the Asia Cup was a big loss, Shakil.
So what was the real reason behind organizing that Invitational T20? I mean, was that a reason? Was that actually organized to find out who your final 15 would be taking into the Asia Cup? Because, like you said, that wasn't competitive enough to be a preparation for a world tournament like this.
Yeah, we had no option, did we? Sri Lanka had no option. There was no team that was willing to come at that time, because all teams, as you know, they prepare their international calendar and their program well in advance. I don't think teams are available at short notice. So this is the best that I think Sri Lankan cricket could have come up with. But having said that, I feel that tournament would have helped the selectors to pick the final few places that were vacant. I'm sure the main nucleus of the team would have been finalized by then, but there would have always been those questionable areas or players that they had to bring in, at the last minute, or players that they would have had wanted to take a look to try and evaluate and be sure. So that tournament would have helped in that regard.
Now, Asia Cup, obviously, just maybe 4 to 8 weeks away from the World Cup. Are we also possibly looking at it as the right combination going into the World Cup, or are we actually taking this as a serious tournament to look forward to?
I feel, Shakil, that every opportunity at international level is a good test for for the Sri Lankan team. Because as you know, I mean, we are not India or Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we do have a settled lineup, but I don't think that out of that settled lineup, that all of them are certainties. I'm sure we are still looking for the best combination. At the moment, this is the best we have. So the Asia Cup will serve as a very good, indication to the selectors and everyone else where this team is and who the real quality players are and who would, in their opinion, cope on those fast and bouncy Aussie wickets. Because don't forget, Australia is a completely different kettle of fish because it's about the surfaces we are playing on. You see, wherever you play in Australia, I remember the last test series we played in Canberra. We never heard of Canberra to be fast and bouncy. Canberra was the nastiest track where
Right.
where the Australian fast bowlers hit Dimut Karunaratne on the helmet, he had to retire. So
Right.
it is going to be a challenge. So it's about understanding who are the players who can cope with such conditions, and are these the guys who can take us to the World Cup, or do we have to look at other options? So these will be the critical questions that the Asia Cup will unfold and answer, hopefully.
Shahan has a question for you, Roshan. Dasun Shanaka is cold most of the time and suddenly goes hot once in 8 times. Is that enough to keep his place in the team?
Well, I think what I will give credit to Dasun is one person who appears to have got this team together. Now,
Yeah.
we do know, we've heard stories that before that this team had fragments and it wasn't, operating well. We did see that in England where there were so many fragments and the team was, I don't know whether it's punctured is the right word, but I didn't see the type of unity that the team carries today. But having said that, yes, Dasun Shanaka, the cricketer, needs to justify himself as a player. He needs to be, because he's in that side as an all-rounder, he needs to be able to bat, he needs to come on and bowl an over or two when it is needed. There is no question where he could be carried as a passenger, unless you're Mike Brearley of England, where he was such a good captain and where he won games purely on his captaincy skills. I don't think Dasun Shanaka is still there as a captain, so I fully agree with that question. It is definitely not enough. You need Dasun Shanaka, the cricketer, to fire, and he should be batting at number 6. And as a number 6 player, it's a critical place for Dasun Shanaka to showcase his talent. Having said that, I've seen him do that. I did see that knock when he thrashed the Australians for 60 runs in 3 overs, which I felt was the one that really triggered the Sri Lankan turnaround. So he's capable, but as he very correctly said, the delivery should be more consistent.
Now, don't you also think that Dasun Shanaka sort of is holding himself back bowling, because obviously he's not necessarily in the squad, because he's also a cog, isn't he? Because he can bat, he can bowl when situations arise. When your lead bowler, of course, unfortunately is leaking for runs, someone like him can come in and start plugging the holes. But we don't see him taking that opportunity to come and take the bull by its horns, so to say, and bowl himself. He's always looking for another option apart from him when he knows he is an option.
I agree with you. That's something that I also think he should really consider doing, because he needs to back himself. He needs to back himself as a bowler, and that will make a lot of good to his batting also. As you know, Shakil, all-rounders, their performances tend to rub off on the other angle that they're bringing to the game. For example, if an all-rounder bats well, then obviously with his confidence level being high, his bowling also tends to prosper. So I fully endorse what you say. Dasun Shanaka needs to come in and bowl a little bit more. He needs to at least bowl that over or two. He needs to pick at what point he needs to bowl. But yes, I don't expect him to bowl 4 overs, but he needs to be somebody who can come in at that difficult time and just lead from the front, even with the ball in hand. That's a very good observation you make.
But Roshan, also when we've seen Sri Lankan cricket teams of the past, of the Kumars and the Mahelas and of Arjuna and Aravinda, when obviously a captain is struggling to make the right decisions, you do see other players coming up and sort of giving advice. Maybe sometimes too much advice might be also a problem. But here sometimes you see Dasun is actually lost standing there all by himself. No one seems to be coming up and obviously offering another way. Maybe once or twice you might see Charmika doing it, but clearly he's not a senior, but he's just doing that out of the exuberance of youth, I believe, because he just gives 150% all the time, as you know. But you should ideally see Charit Asalanka coming up. You should see Wanindu coming up. You should see Kusal Mendis coming up. You don't see any one of them coming up and expect him to take decisions all on his own all the time.
Yeah, correct. They don't do it as regularly as we would like them to see doing that. I have seen them do it sometimes, but yes, they're not doing it as consistently, and that's, I'm sure, a good observation, Shakir. And that is something they need to inculcate. But it all depends again on Dasun also. Now, there are certain captains who would mind that, but there could be also other captains who may not, encourage it too much. So I really don't know the team culture or the environment. But again, I remember when Angelo Matthews was captain in Bangladesh, I remember on his first tour, what was very, very apparent was that people like Mahela Jayawardena was almost ready at that, he was an ever-present help to Angelo at any time, and he was willing to offer his advice. So again, these are things that one don't need to teach, but these are cultures that a team needs to develop. Senior players need to understand, and I think these are basic things when it comes to cricket. It's not rocket science.
On Wanindu Hasaranga, obviously over the past 12 to 16 months, he's really turned out to be an absolute master as far as the team is concerned. Do you feel that we're actually putting too much onus on Wanindu like we used to do with Murali, irrespective of the fact that, listen, Roshan, even those days our batting used to collapse for 120 and 180, but we knew there was someone called Murali in the squad, and we knew that and Vas, yes, that's right. But we knew, of course, if they struck early, something could happen. That sort of feeling, you feel that Wanindu is actually brought back into the team, but too much, too early for him?
Well, it's like this, Shakil. It is where the team is at the moment. At the moment, they were looking to Wanindu as their savior. He was the match winner. But I'm happy that the likes of Mahesh Theekshana and also Dushmantha Chameera has emerged. So I think Sri Lanka now has 3 bowlers of real quality where the over-dependence on Wanindu could be reduced. But again, now you could see that the fast bowler, that is Dushmantha Chameera, is down with injury. So now it is down to 2 bowlers, right? So Mahesh Theekshana and Wanindu Hasaranga. So obviously, because of the quality, because he's a cut above the rest, the natural inclination is to go to him.
Yes.
And that's where his experience and his ability and his talent will be seen, because if he can rise and if he can soak in that pressure, then it's good for the team. But if he buckles under pressure, I'm afraid that will be the end of the story for the team.
And it's good to see that he's also backing himself, and I suppose also good to see that the management would like to use him as a floater in a batting lineup.
Yeah, it is good, but I don't agree that he should have batted ahead of Dasun Shanaka in that last game.
Right.
I still agree that Dasun Shanaka should have batted ahead of him, and then Wanindu Hasaranga to come in next. Because I believe Dasun Shanaka is a better organized batsman than Wanindu. Wanindu's role generally is to be aggressive. That surface did not lend itself to be aggressive from ball 1. It was a surface that you needed a measured approach. It was a surface that you needed a little bit of time, where the last 5 overs could have given you some runs, just like what Pakistan did against India. So that I thought was a mistake. So I hope all these mistakes will be corrected going into the game against Bangladesh.
It's something very similar as to what we're talking about, sending by Sisita. When Bhavnukar was playing so well, was it really necessary for Wanindu to go for that poor shot?
No, it was not. That's the thing. See, that's what I mean. Cricket, as we know, it's about partnerships, isn't it? I mean, you need to complement each other, whether you're batting or bowling. So if Bhavnukar Rajapaksa was playing that role of an aggressor, where if he was going to take on the bowling and play those shots, then what should the batsman at the other end do? He needs to make sure that you feed Bhavnukar the strike as much as you can. But instead, if he gets out, what happens is you put additional pressure on a man who's looking to bat freely. So that's not going to help the team. So that's why I felt that a more balanced, a stable head in the form of Dasun Chanaka would have helped coming in at that time instead of Wanindu Hasaranga.
You feel the Bhanukar is actually batting too low in the order?
Well, Asalanka is settled at number 3. I don't want him changed at all. And I don't think you want to push an opener like Danushka Gunatilaka too deep down the order, because openers love the ball coming onto the bat. On the other hand, Bhanuka is a very good player against spin bowling. Right? He hits the spinners very well, and he also enjoys the slightly older ball rather than the newer ball. So I feel number 5 is ideal for him.
Right, Roshan, now of course we've got so many questions actually coming in, which we'll be putting up on the screen as we go along. If you've got your questions, by all means just drop us a WhatsApp. You know the number, it'll come up on your screen right now. That's the number. Lots of questions coming in. 077 669 1590. Now we are on the back step even before the tournament has actually started. We are in a situation where usually this happens in the latter part, where you know that you are reliant on another team to either beat someone or lose to somebody for you to actually go through. Here we are from the first match. Now we are reliant on Afghanistan beating Bangladesh tomorrow for us to go through. How does this work in the players' minds?
Well, obviously, if they say it's not a pressure, it's a lie. I'm sure it's a lot of pressure, because they know that being Sri Lanka coming into this tournament, they won't have expected this exit so soon. They were expecting to go to the last 4 and progress if they can. I mean, any team would do that. But on paper, you would expect Sri Lanka to go there. Because, Shakil, if you look at Bangladesh, now look at the scenario. Bangladesh is coming from a very poor place. For example, they lost to Zimbabwe. Right, and there appears to be a lot of issues with that team. They removed their coach. They brought in a new coach. Right, it's an unsettled lineup. The captains have been moved around and changed around, and we've heard that all's not well within that Bangladesh camp. This is what we've heard. So, where Bangladesh is at the moment, it is not encouraging if you're a Bangladeshi supporter. But that is the only comfort that the Sri Lanka team can take forward. But again, as you correctly said, we are depending on uncontrollable factors, and which is Afghanistan to beat Bangladesh, push them against the wall where we can go and beat them also. On the other hand, if Bangladesh scores a victory against Afghanistan, we will be under double pressure. First to beat Bangladesh, and also to ensure that we get our run rates up, and that is really tough. That's asking for too much, and lots of teams have fallen by the wayside trying to do that. So Sri Lanka will be hoping that Afghanistan can do what they did to us against Bangladesh.
Our run rate has certainly taken a massive hammering after the match against Afghanistan. There was a question up on the screen which quickly run into that one. Priyanta says, is Danushka Gunatilaka the next Chamara Kapugadra? Always promising but never delivering.
Well, I think he has delivered some time ago. I think it seems to be a more common problem.
Even you say it some time ago. That's not what you expect from a cricketer, right?
That's what I'm saying. So it appears to be more of a current problem. I've seen Danushka Gunatilaka bat brilliantly, but since of late, he's kind of promised a lot, but he has never delivered. Well, I don't know whether that assessment is fair, whether we are insulting Kapugendra or vice versa. I really don't know, comparing the two, whether it is fair. But Danushka needs to buckle up and start delivering. Otherwise, he may have to move on and let someone new come in, because there are lots of young cricketers waiting in the wings. So hopefully Danushka realizes that.
It's unfortunate. More often than not, really, with Danushka is this rush of blood at a time where he has the match in his control. That is the problem. It's not the fact that the bowlers actually get him out. He gets himself out more often than not.
He's too good a player, Shakil. I've seen him play some outstanding innings. I mean, the way he bats, some of the shots he plays, the tall, upright left hand, some unbelievable shots. Add to that, he's an outstanding fielder. But I really can't put a finger on it as to what is really wrong with him. I only hope that this turnaround of his problem is just one inning away, and that inning will be against Bangladesh, and from there on he will never look back, because Sri Lanka needs a firing and Danushka Gunatilaka who can really take the bowling by the scruff of its neck. In Australia, for example, you need someone like that because he's got good technique. He takes the fast bowlers on. He's not afraid to play the horizontal shots. That's the kind of play you need. So I suppose that's the reason that the selectors are backing him. But I'm just wondering how long they can tolerate him. That's the problem.
Hi, I am Nilanga. My question is that Sanat Jayasuriya said Dhanushka Guladil. Where's okay, hold on a minute. Sanat Jayasuriya. Okay, we'll come back to that question. Okay, we'll come back to that question in just a few minutes. I keep reading halfway through and then it goes off again. Okay.
There you go.
On that note, Roshan, in terms of players sort of getting themselves out, we've seen this happening many a times. Is that a point where possibly your first coach can actually call you up and say something at this nature? At this time, would you accept your first coach to come up to you and say, listen, I see something that you're not supposed to be doing, and will that work? Does that happen usually?
It does. Lots of players have gone back. I can give you a very good example that happened so many years ago. Roshan Mahanam, when he had an issue, but that is purely a technical thing. It's a technical problem. When you just keep getting out to a technical flaw, you would see your first coach would know exactly the way you cope with certain situations and whether those things have changed. For example, your stance, your feet, the way you play your shots as a bowler. So he would notice that difference, however small it could be. But if it is something to do with your mental state, then I'm not sure that the first coach could help. Then you need to go to a mentor or a psychologist or someone like that. But definitely, if there is a technical issue, there are lots of cricketers who go back to their first coach, work with their first coach, get them to look at it and look at themselves and then make those adjustments.
Okay, I think we've got the question back on the screen right now. Hi, I'm Nilanga. My question is that Sanat Jayasuriya said Dhanushka Gunatilaka is not right about middle. What do you think about this?
I don't understand.
I don't understand the question either.
What is right about middle?
Right about middle is not right about middle. Okay, Nilanga, I know you're watching the show right now. If you can rephrase that question and send it in to us, I'm sure Roshan will be more than happy to actually answer this question. Into the final 10 minutes of the show. Hey, don't forget, we've got the Daraz Deal of the Day is also on right now on the show. If you haven't already jumped on the Daraz app, please do that right now. Go ahead. Take a screenshot of the deal of the day today and send it into number 0750117777 and you can win the deal of the day. We have this every day on the show, Monday to Thursday, 9:30 to 10:30, live on Channel 1 Dialogue TV and of course YouTube platforms with PodHub. In the meantime, we've got a big match as far as Sri Lanka is concerned tomorrow. Everybody is going to be hoping to be an Afghan supporter, obviously, and then Sri Lanka take on Bangladesh on Thursday. Are you looking at any possible changes for the next game, Roshan?
Well, I feel if there is a change, I would, if I was given the option, I'll play Asita Fernando for one reason. Because in Bangladesh, on docile tracks, Asita Fernando bombed the Bangladesh batsmen with those short balls. And one thing that we know is that the Bangladesh batsmen have a definite weakness against the short delivery. They struggle a lot against extreme pace. They struggle a lot against the short ball. So and the moving ball. So I think that will work well for us. So I would go for Asita Fernando, and maybe I'll leave out young Matisha Patirana. That's the only change that I would want to make in the Sri Lankan lineup, because the rest of the lineup remains pretty settled, to be honest. So you can't drop a player, basically on a performance of one game. You got to give him another game. Unfortunately, this is the sudden death. If we lose here, we are gone. So that's a chance you got to take. You got to back a team that are tried and tested. You back an experienced team, and you back people who you think can deliver. So I feel that is the only change as far as I'm concerned.
Now, Sri Lanka obviously did take on Bangladesh in the previous T20 World Cup, which is of course played just like about 9 months ago or so. But then, of course, that was a very well fought out match, and Sri Lanka came out on top as far as that match is concerned. But Bangladesh were in a very, very good state of mind at that point. Right now, like you said, there are a lot of internal issues that are going through as far as Bangladesh is concerned right now. I suppose that might be the only thing that we have to sort of take to our advantage if we are to move forward.
Well, Bangladesh, whilst we would want to look at it from that perspective, Bangladesh might come into the game saying they have nothing to lose, everything to gain, because from where they are. So it depends as to whether it's half full or half empty. So it's how you look at it. But if you really look at the form, if you look at the form guide, Bangladesh's form has been poor. I mean, it is a slur for them, almost a full side of Bangladesh to go to Zimbabwe and lose to Zimbabwe, because that wouldn't go down well with them. And then also Russell Domingo being removed. So that's a big statement by the Bangladesh board. So tomorrow, Bangladesh, Afghanistan will definitely tell us. Right? Even if Bangladesh loses against Afghanistan, the way they play will be an indicator for us to understand how tough they're going to be in our game. Tomorrow's result will be a factor, but you need to look at the way Bangladesh plays in that game. If they play, positive cricket, if they look to express themselves, if they look to counterpunch Afghanistan and compete, then that's a different story. But if you find their heads down and not looking the side they are, then Sri Lankans can breathe a little bit easier, knowing that Bangladesh is mentally not in a good place.
All right, a big couple of matches coming up as far as the Asia Cup is concerned. Yesterday we had a cracker of a match between India and Pakistan. It was swinging both sides right throughout. Turned out to be that India, of course, winning that match. But it's a clear indication that yesterday's match was pretty inconsequential, just to figure out as to who's going to top the table. The real match is going to be next Sunday again when they face each other. That's going to be the match and a half.
Well, I feel Pakistan will come back very strongly. Right? I think they made an elementary mistake, Shakil. I don't know how their support staff failed to caution their team about the overrate. You can't do that. Because this is the modern rule. All teams need to be aware of the latest rules. They can't be ignorant. They can't be found napping. And that was a massive mistake. If you remember, the boundary judge of Naseem Shah, the first delivery where he slapped it between extra cover and the bowler, could have been just one run.
Right.
If they had 5 fielders on the boundary.
Right.
So you got to understand, the captain cannot keep an eye. He has to, but the captain can be given support. So I am surprised for a professional outfit how they missed it. So Pakistan can only blame themselves, and I feel the contest on a pitch like this will be really close. I'm not going to say that Pakistan is going to win, but I'm expecting an even more tougher and a keener contest, and I won't put a win beyond Pakistan. They look a very good side.
What is your opinion about the new rule that's usually come into play with the slow overrate? Gone are the days where the players are fined 10, 15, 20%. Clearly, I'm sure it took them a long time to understand 10, 20, 30% for a cricketer really is nothing much from their fining them of their pay. But this is actually going to hurt any team. And I think this is something that they will really look into very carefully.
Shakil, I'm hoping that this rule will not only be enforced at international level, it will be enforced even at league levels. Because I have been on many leagues, particularly the Bangladesh Premier League, where I have seen, even in the LPL, I have seen that teams, they just take their time over the overrate. And sometimes it just reaches ridiculously, terrible level, the overrates. And don't forget that it's the paying public, right? You've got to make sure that, you don't deprive them of the action in the given time. So I think it's a very good decision. And teams will start once they start hurting, once they start losing games, and once they realize their folly, you watch. Overrates will teams will never be found and never face a situation of slow over rates. Once it starts hurting them, you see, because 10, 15, 20% fines, well, that does not work. Captain being suspended for 2 games, that doesn't work. So now they're hitting the team direct in terms of results. So imagine a World Cup final. Imagine an Asia Cup final, right? He's lost because of poor overage. They'll never be able to forgive themselves.
No, it's a fantastic rule, like you said, and really is actually picking up the teams to start making sure that they concentrate on the match far more. We're into the final 2 minutes of the show, Roshan, and we had a fantastic chat already about the match.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah?
Can I tell you something? I didn't realize that I had spent an hour with you.
Is that a good
It's
thing?
like 10 minutes. It is a good thing. In commentary, right? In commentary, let me lead you into a secret. Now, in commentary, when we are paired and we commentate for half an hour, there are commentators that you feel that it's like an age. And that's when you don't actually enjoy that commentary. But when you start enjoying each other's commentary and when you start enjoying that little stint of half an hour, it's done in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're just wondering, man, have we done? Are we finished? You don't feel the time passing. So
Roshan,
I'm paying you a compliment.
Thank you. I mean, Roshan, you and I go back very, very long. I mean, very far back.
Too long.
Too long. I mean, I don't know if our viewers obviously remember. I actually was narrating this.
No, you were 19 when I first met you.
I was narrating this story just before the show started to my producer, and I was saying, listen, Roshan and I have known each other, and he started, of course, with us in the radio studio back in 1995, and I asked him, how old were you in 1995? He looked at me and said, I wasn't born.
No, you were 19, right? You were 19.
I was, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I remember that very well.
Yeah, so, and we spent many a days in the radio studio together, Roshan.
Yeah, of course.
Having almost the same conversation. Okay, Roshan, quickly before we do actually go, hypothetically speaking, Afghanistan beat Bangladesh, Sri Lanka's chances of moving into the next round, what do you say?
Very good. If Afghanistan beat Bangladesh, but again, it depends on the victory. And it depends to me the way both teams play. If it is a close game, if Bangladesh runs Afghanistan very, very close and then they lose, I think Sri Lanka will have a fight in their hands. Anyway, there'll be a fight because it's an international game. But if Bangladesh loses badly, I think Sri Lanka will be feeling much more comfortable going into that game. But don't even think of Bangladesh beating Afghanistan, and even if we beat Bangladesh in the next game, I think Sri Lanka might be the team that will lose out because of the run rate, because they lost that first game with almost 10 overs to spare. So the best scenario for us is Afghanistan beat Bangladesh as convincingly as they did beat us, and then we beat Bangladesh in our game.
Rightio. Okay, so just before we let you go, Roshan, I think it's time for us to get into the winner for today, the Daraz deal of the day. Don't forget, Roshan, hold on, because I need to also come back to you with a poll that we actually started off at the beginning of the show. But before we get into that, we've got the Daraz deal of the day. Congratulations to our winner, and the winner is going to come up in a few minutes. This is what you had to do. You had to jump on the app, take a screenshot and send it to us via WhatsApp on 0750117777. And the first lucky person, of course, is going to be walking off with that Daraz deal of the day, Celsius Classic Pillow Double Wasi Pack. And who is our winner? Congratulations to Mayura Prasad. Congratulations, Mayura Prasad. You are the winner for today, the Daraz deal of the day. Your details will be sent across to our friends at Daraz, and they will get in touch with you. Coming up, we've got the results of the poll. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome to the universe of the Raz, where you explore and discover whatever you want, whatever you need. All you can imagine is on your feet. When miles are abridged, happiness is unlocked. Discover your Daraz.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the show. And of course, beginning of the show, we started off with our daily poll. And the poll, of course, want to find out if Sri Lanka is going to move into the next round. Will Sri Lanka make it to the next round at the Asia Cup? Unfortunately, we're in a situation where we have no control over us making it to the next round. All depend on the match tomorrow. You had to WhatsApp your answers, everybody watching us on Channel 1, on Dialogue TV, and of course on part of platform on YouTube. 077-669-1590. Let's find out. Will Sri Lanka make it to the next round of the Asia Cup? What do you say? Well, a little over half, 59% say Sri Lanka will make it to the next round of the Asia Cup. Not convincing. But just a little over half, 59%, say Sri Lanka will make it to the next round of the Asia Cup. That's exactly what we were talking about on the show today. So thank you very much, everybody. Hopefully keeping our fingers crossed, knowing what a cricket-loving and cricket-crazy country we are. It certainly wouldn't be all that great if we get kicked out of our own tournament that we host. Even though we're not hosting in our country, but we're still a host. And wouldn't look too nice. It's like being kicked out of home.
Absolutely right. Shakil, as we come to almost the end of the show, I need to say something. Something that I've seen which I appeal, wherever I go, I appeal to our viewership, our listenership, that, I'm somebody who's a passionate Sri Lankan. I'm a very proud Sri Lankan. And wherever we go, wherever I am, I try to fly Sri Lankan. I ask for tea, not coffee, because Sri Lanka is a tea-making country, not a coffee-making country. Right? And as a cricket team, I am very proud of my team. And I sincerely ask everybody who's watching us, whatever platform they're in, that we need to support our team. We need to stand by our team. Not when we are doing well, but when we are down and out. One example, just look at Star TV. Just look at 10 Sports. Just look at all the cricketing channels in India. Just tell me, do they ever show a game that India has lost? They never. They always show you the moments that India has won. They show you Indian heroes, the Indian hundreds, the Indian winning moments, because they are proud of their team and they want the country to be proud about it. Unfortunately, we don't have such television stations in this country. But we, as a country, we as a nation, can try to stand by our team. Yes, we can be constructive with our criticism. That's fair. But I find that Shakil, on social media, sad to say, whilst we have a high percentage of very knowledgeable social media followers, we also have a very small percentage of social media followers who actually doesn't know the difference between the bat and ball. But they talk as if they played 100 one-days or 100 test matches. And they criticize players, which is bad. So we must refrain from that. Let's take a stand. If we don't have anything good to say, let's not say anything. But if we can support the team with whatever way we can, with encouragements, with supporting, statements, by wishing them best, that's what I think we should do as a nation. Because we are a proud nation. We are a proud nation of Sri Lankans. It's not Sinhalese, it's not Tamils, it's not Muslims, it's not Burghers. We are a proud nation of Sri Lankans. So as Sri Lankans, we got to stand together and be proud of our nation. And at this moment, we need to support our sportsmen, our cricketers. That's what I want to leave with everybody watching across your platforms.
Thank you very much, Roshan. Of course, 100% correct. Of course, we need to back our cricketers as much as we possibly can and be behind them as much as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, that is what fans are, aren't they? They're fanatics because they love them so much that they don't expect them to fail. And when they do fail, they're sometimes heartbroken. With social media, things just get blurted out the way it's not supposed to be. But that's the way of the world, Roshan. Unfortunately, that's how it is. But I understand we have to back our team. But the team also should make some sort of responsibility and make sure we back them.
Of course. Didn't they do that against Pakistan and Australia? They did. They did. So
it's not enough.
Just one game. This is just one game. Before you go, let me tell you an interesting story. The first match against Australia, Dinesh Chandimal failed. Okay? And I get messages from our fans from around the world. Chandimal should be dropped. Chandimal doesn't deserve to play in the test match. They are forgetting that Chandimal got 100 in the last test against Bangladesh. So that's what I don't like. Constructive criticism is fine. Yes, the team needs to perform. Yes, fans are fanatics. But at the same time, they got to be mindful of what they say.
Wonderful. Roshan, thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure having you on the show. We'll drag you back on the show just in case Sri Lanka does get into the second round. Would love to have you back on. We will see how fast we go with it. Roshan, thank you. Have yourself a wonderful night, and we shall speak to you soon.
Thank you, Shakil. Thank you for having me, and a very good night from me and to all our viewers and everyone else who joined us.
Thank you so much. There you go, Roshan Abeysinghe, of course, a renowned international commentator on the show, deciphering Sri Lanka's performance against Afghanistan. Also looking forward as to what Sri Lanka needs to do against the match against Bangladesh and moving into the second round. Can we? Can't we? Fingers crossed. Hopefully Sri Lanka can do it, move on to the next round and play some competitive cricket. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, on the show for tonight. We'll be back with you once again tomorrow night, 9:30, right here, coming to you live on Channel 1 Dialogue TV and of course Pod Hub on YouTube. Have yourself a wonderful Monday night. Good night.